What's going on, everyone? Ains here, Season Gaming, and we are back with another video from Diablo 4, the game that has seemingly taken over millions of lives across the world, and I, frankly, for one, love to see it. So, we're back with a build video, this time on the Barbarian. So, I want to thank everyone who checked out my Druid build video. That performed very well, got a lot of tremendous comments, nice people saying they're having a lot of fun with it, it's helped them, what have you. And, you know, that makes it worth it for me. I love hearing that stuff. So, I did the Druid as part of the review process, and many people may not know that all of us reviewers who had access to the game early had our progress wiped. We didn't get to keep any of that. So when the game launched on Thursday in early access for the Ultimate Edition, I jumped back in, and this time I started on the Barbarian. So my goal with the Barbarian was to create what I would call like an ABB build, an always be berserking build. So a crazed, dual wielding, very fast moving, fast attacking Barbarian that of course had survivability. As I said in my Druid video, I do these builds for me, I do what works, I do what has fun. I'm not claiming this is the best Barbarian build, I'm not claiming this is some masterful thing, but it will get through all of the content in a fun way, which is what my goal is. So we're going to be looking at that today. I call it the ABB build, the always be berserking build, and that's enough talking, I think. Let's go ahead and get to the skills. So I'm going to do this in an order where I'm going to go through the skills, I'm going to explain all of that and the survivability passives that I'm going to be looking at. Then I'm going to go through the affixes I'm currently using and some of the critical ones for this build. Then I'm going to talk about the Barbarian expertise and why I like certain aspects of that. And then lastly, I'll touch on where I'm going with the Paragon and why. So let's go ahead and look at the skill tree itself, starting at the top as usual. So as I already said, we're going dual wielding here, fast attack speed. So we're going to start with Frenzy. And just a reminder to always keep a look at the green box, which describes the type of attack it is, because that'll come into play with affixes. And then the net box next to it is the style of attack. So it's a basic attack, dual wielding, Frenzy. And as you can read here, basically after you hit an enemy, your attack speed is increased by 20%, excuse me. And the additional bonuses here I put on is while Frenzy is granting 60% bonus attack speed, it also generates Fury. That's going to come in handy. And then you get 8% damage reduction for each stack of Frenzy you currently have, which is usually around 3. So you're going to see me talk a lot about survivability as well. The Barb seems to have a little lower survivability with the way I built it than the Druid, but it does more damage. So it's kind of a trade-off, but so far I have gotten through everything in World Tier 3 without dying. I can't remember the last time I died, so it's been a lot of fun, and I'll explain that as we go. So that's going to be your basic skill. Come down here to your core skill, and you're going to hear me talk about 2 key skills to this build. This is the first one of them, and it's called Double Swing. So Double Swing is your dual wield attack core skill. It swings both your weapons at the same time, and if it hits a single enemy with both weapons, you get a bonus to that of damage, high bonus. Now, the key to this attack is you can see here that it costs 25 Fury to use. Now, this first bonus that you're going to put onto it, it says if double swing damages a stunned or knocked down enemy, gain 25 Fury. So basically, you're getting the Fury back, assuming you're hitting an enemy that is either stunned or knocked down. That's very important. I will come back to that very shortly. The other bonus you're going to put on here is casting Double Swing while berserking grants 2 additional seconds of berserking. Again, always be berserking. And if I didn't describe berserking yet, which I don't believe I have, it says right at the bottom of the box there, berserking grants 25% increased damage and 15% increased movement speed. Again, we're trying to build that crazed, fast-moving, fast-attacking Barbarian. That's where the berserking comes in, and there's going to be a lot of supplements to that to make sure that essentially anytime you're attacking, you're in berserk mode. Now, you come down to your defensive skills, and I don't really use a lot of defensive skills with the Barb. Survivability comes from other areas, which I'll explain, but the key one I do use is Ground Stomp. And as you can see, I only have 1 point into it. It's just so that I can knock enemies down and stun them. With those passives, or not passives, excuse me, with the additions, you're going to increase the duration by 1 second. And then you're going to use this reduce a cooldown of your ultimate skill by 1 second for each enemy damaged by your Ground Stomp. This one is hit or miss. If I like being in big groups, so if you Ground Stomp, you know, like 10 plus enemies, your cooldown on your ultimate is going to be nice and low, which is great. However, coming into boss fights, single elites, things like that, this isn't going to do much. So this one you could probably leave if you don't feel it's worth it. I just have it on right now, and I've kind of played around with that a little bit. But going back to Ground Stomp itself, it deals a little bit of damage, but the more important thing here is it stuns the surrounding enemies for nearly 4.5 seconds, right? Now, as we set up here with Double Swing, when you damage a stunned or knocked down enemy, you get 25 Fury. So you can basically use Double Swing for free, and that's key. So what you do, you basically go into a crowd of enemies with Ground Stomp, you stomp them, and then you start spamming your Double Swing, and it will cost 0 Fury repeatedly. So if you get into an area where either you have a bunch of enemies or you have like a big elite you need to focus on, you Ground Stomp them, you stun them, you spam the heck out of Double Swing, you will do a tremendous amount of damage to them before they become unstunned, and it costs you 0 Fury. That's key to this build. You'll see it in some of the clips I post later. Now, moving down to brawling, again, as you can see, not much in the brawling space that I use. I did have on leap because I love the leap skill just from a dynamics perspective, but it really wasn't doing anything for my build I really needed. So I took it off. I'm using a basic war cry right now with 1 point just to get that flat 15% damage boost. And then on that, again, giving you berserking every time you use it for 4 more seconds. And then it also fortifies you. That's going to come into play a little bit, that I'll explain. But basically, you get a chunk of life as fortification when you war cry, which helps with the survivability and some other aspects I'll explain. Now, your weapon mastery skill, and this is key skill number 2. I said there were 2 main ones you're going to focus on. This is probably the biggest, which is Death Blow. So Death Blow is really unique because it, 1, deals a tremendous amount of damage. 2, it's on a cooldown, so it's not using Fury. And 3, the most important thing about Death Blow is right in the middle of that box, it says, if this kills an enemy, a charge is refunded. So what you're going to do is you're going to put on Enhanced Death Blow, deals 100% increased damage to bosses, which comes in handy, does a ton of damage. And of course, this is going to shock you. If you use Death Blow and it damages at least 1 enemy, you get berserking for 3 seconds. Again, ABB. All right, so where Death Blow comes into this build is, again, large groups of enemies. Essentially what you're going to do is you're going to come into a group of enemies, you're going to get your attacking going, your attack speed, you're going to stomp, then you're going to be using your Double Swing as I explained, right? Because while they're stunned, this costs no Fury. Get them very weak if they're not already dead. And then you're going to hit them with Death Blow. And Death Blow is going to splatter them all over the place. And every time you kill even a grunt, even 1 single enemy with Death Blow, the charge is refunded and you can use it again. So I have clips where I've literally killed 20, 30 people in a row just swinging Death Blow, spamming it. It costs no Fury. It'll just keep going. It does a tremendous amount of damage, especially if you build into the affixes that complement weapon mastery skills. I will show this, of course, but as you can see in the box right there, it says charges 2. So normally you have 1. I have a affix that gives you a second charge of that. So it comes incredibly handy. It's very fun to combine the Ground Stomp, the Twin Blade, or Double Swing, excuse me. I don't know why I call it Twin Blade. Double Swing and the Death Blow together. It just, it basically not only fun to use, but it melts everything. To finish off your build, guess what? You're going to build into Berserking. So, Wrath of the Berserker, it's going to give you Berserking and Unstoppable. Then it's going to give you a 20% increased movement speed and increased Fury regeneration by 30%. And of course, it's going to increase your damage by every 50 Fury you spend. Now, keep in mind, as I've already said, you're going to be spamming Double Blade, Double Swing. One of these days I'll get this right. Double Swing. You're going to be spamming it. It is 25 Fury, so all you have to do is use that twice, and you're going to get a damage bonus by 25% where Wrath of the Berserker is active. And that can compound as well. And then, of course, your active passive is going to compound that again. You're going to increase your Berserking maximum duration, and you're going to get another flat damage boost of 25%. So as you can see with the skills, they compound one another and work together, just like I explained with Druid, to where you're always Berserking, you're always getting damage bonuses based on Berserking or the things you're hitting. You're basically not using Fury half the time, But even when you do need Fury, you have a lot of it usually because your attack speed and your dual wielding is so fast, you generate Fury quickly. So that's kind of the core of the build. Let's go ahead and talk about the passives real quick. So I use these for survivability. This is 15% additional max life, and then 9% damage reduction against elites. Similar to what I use with the Druid, the reason I feel this is important is because once you get into the later levels, the higher content, the Nightmare, what have you, really the only thing that's going to cause you any trouble are elites or bosses. So it's good to have that flat 9% damage reduction there just from a survivability standpoint. I use this one here. Again, 9% damage reduction while berserking. As I've already said, you're basically always berserking. So again, this is almost like another 9% flat damage reduction across the board against all enemies on that one. Now these three are interesting. So this one is 9% increased damage to close enemies, which of course you're almost always going to be close, and 6% distant damage reduction. So those ranged enemies who may be picking you off from afar, at least you get some prevention against those. I'll come back to that one in a second. This one, you get a 9% increased critical strike chance against immobilized, stunned, there's the word again, or slowed enemies. So again, this compounds with your ground stomp, and it compounds with your double swing to just give you an even better chance to crit them, which massive damage. This one I feel is more important than people give credit for. Not necessarily this passive, but the status effect, which is injured. So injured enemies have less than 35% of their health, so about a third. This passive gives you 23% increased damage against injured. I like that. And the reason why is in ARPGs, you have to prioritize your kills. An enemy with 5% of their health does the same amount of damage to you as an enemy with 100% of their health. And so when you start damaging large groups of enemies, you have to be kind of conscious of the fact of not leaving a bunch of enemies with a tiny bit of health, because they're going to hurt you just the same. You got to finish off those kills. And so you're going to see me in a few areas where I have bonuses to killing or finishing or critting injured enemies, because that just helps you. Once you get their health down, it helps you land that killing blow to basically finish them off quickly. This is another one I mentioned earlier, so this one's great. Every time you take direct damage, meaning someone hitting you directly, you get 1.1% base life as Fortify. So as you get your life up and you start to supplement that, as you're getting hit, you're literally getting health back just by standing there. And it's giving you fortification as well. So if you're max health, you're going to fortify on top of that. And then you can increase your damage reduction gained while you are fortified. So even if you're fortified by 1%, you're now getting another 6% flat damage reduction. Again, survivability comes in very key with some of these passives. And then lastly, this is probably the most obvious one, which is Duelist. Your attack speed is increased by 9% while using one-handed weapons. So you're doing the dual wield. Attack speed is probably one of the most critical, just DPS outright stats you can have. It's great to have this additional attack speed. Okay, so that's really your skill tree. That's what you're going to build into. As you can see, I don't have all the points. I've spent 56 as of this moment as I'm recording. I believe there's 58, 59 total. So I've got a couple I can play around with. As I said, I might move this ground stomp one, something like that. But otherwise, you know, you've got the core of your build right there. But let's talk about what makes the build, and that is obviously your items and your affixes. So I'm going to start here. There's some very key ones that I use with this build that I feel really come in handy and have kind of transformed it into the monster it is now. One of the basic ones here is this one, which is basic skills gain a percentage of attack speed. So that is your dual wield, single hand attacks, get attack speed, and it can be a huge bonus. So it actually doubles the bonus if you put this on one of your two-handed weapons, which is why I have it here. So you have your two-handed bludgeoning or your two-handed slashing. Make sure you have this imprinted or in your Codex of Power. There is a dungeon with this, and put it on your two-handed weapon. It is a huge increase in attack speed, which not only increases your damage output generally, but also your fury generation. So it's a key one. One of the other key ones I want to talk about is this one. So this is what I mentioned where your weapon mastery skills have an additional charge. So that is your death blow. You now have 2 charges instead of 1. The damage output increase you get from having 2 versus 1 is huge. Highly recommended. As you can see, as an actual stat on this item, I also have a +2 to ranks of double swing. So this is kind of like a double whammy. that's really worked out well. So if you can get this one, and again, it's a dungeon, you can get it off in items, you can get it in the codex, make sure you have it. There is a lucky hit bonus on this as well, which is damaging a weapon, or excuse me, damaging an enemy with Death Blow has a chance to stun them. And remember what we said already, if they're stunned, your double swing is free to use and does massive damage. So again, you're just constantly bouncing between your super fast attacks, your double swings, and your death blows. Love this one. This is basic skills grant 20% damage reduction for a point of time. Again, because your attack speed is so fast and you're using your basic attacks in between those double swings and death blows, you're going to hit them every few seconds. So the fact that this one that I have on currently is 4.5 seconds, as you can see, the range at this level is 6. You're always going to have that bonus going, which means you're getting a flat 20% damage reduction across the board at all times that you're in combat, which is incredible. So if you combine that with your passives, where we said like there's a 9% flat here, 9% flat there, you're basically getting a massive damage reduction at all times you're in combat. It's key. Definitely make sure you pick this one up. I talked about this one with the Druid build. I absolutely love this one. You can get this from the dungeon, which is behind the stronghold in the upper left of the map. So you have to do the stronghold, then you can access the dungeon. But basically this one is where attacking an enemy with your basic skill, so your standard dual wield here, will increase the damage of your next core skill, which is your double swing, by an X percentage. So again, smack, 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 stomp them, stun them, start hitting with your double swing. You're getting bonus damage. It's a great one. You're going to be switching between those all the time. Definitely worth having. This is another great one. Critical strikes with core skills, your double swing, increase your attack speed. So again, it's almost the reverse. Now, when you hit them with double swing and you hit them with a crit, now you're increasing your attack speed for your normal attacks. So again, it's that compounding of skills where one builds upon another, and as you're in combat and you're hitting them with these different, 4 or 5 different skills repeatedly, they're all giving each other bonuses. It's absolutely awesome once it starts to click. On the amulet, this is one of my favorite ones as well. I have this right now. So you gain X percentage of armor for 4 seconds when you deal any form of damage, stacking up to here 75%, which is actually a max roll on this one. So the beauty of this, again, is that you are a berserking frenzy barbarian and you're attacking very, very quickly. So you're always dealing damage when you're in combat. Definitely within 4 seconds, you're doing multiple hits per second. So you're basically getting this. If you're in a big group of enemies, the more you attack, the more armor you're getting, the more survivability you're getting. This is a great one. It's another one that I've kind of made sure to have kind of on for the past several levels or so. Now, this is one that confuses some people, and I want to talk about this in relation to what the Barbarian is. So it says, after swapping weapons 6 times, you gain 328, currently anyway, of Fortify. So you've heard me talk about using your dual wielding a lot and then doing your death blow. Your death blow actually uses any of your arsenal weapons, which is all 4 of these. So if you see the word arsenal, that just means all of these weapons. It's all 4 combined. Now, what you can do is when you are attacking with your basic skills and then death blowing, right? Or using double swing and death blowing, you're swapping weapons because you're going from your one-handed weapons to your two-handed weapons. So every 6th time you do that, you're going to gain 328 fortify, which keeps you frequently fortified in the middle of the battle. And as I said in the skills, when you're fortified, you not only do more damage, but you take less damage based on the passives that we put on. So it's really, really functional to have this on, but that's all that weapon swapping means. And I want to point out something else that people miss on the skills relating to swapping weapons and the death blow as well. So let me go back to the abilities real quick and just show you this. So on death blow, if you click here and you hit assign skill, you can actually assign what weapon you want death blow to use. So if you see here cycle weapon, you can cycle between hitting with your dual wield weapons, your bludgeoning weapon, or your slicing weapon, or you can let the game auto select for you. Generally speaking, the game's going to auto-select for you, and it's going to choose the most damage one, so you don't really have to worry about anything. But I am calling that out just so people understand it. And if you look at the top of the box here where it says lucky hit chance, attempted killing strike, dealing X amount of damage, when you switch between these, it actually shows you in real time what the damage difference is. So you can always kind of double check yourself. Maybe there's a bonus you're unsure about that you want to double check, but just be aware of that because it's something that you can play around with. Now, you also will see at the bottom of the box here, it says requires any complete arsenal weapon. That's why it says that. You can use any of your arsenal weapons for death blow. So don't be confused about that. It can be a little confusing, but once you kind of know what they're talking about, it all starts to make sense. Lastly, on the items, in terms of stats, things I look for, like I said, look on the gloves here, you get a 6.8% critical strike chance against injured enemies. I'm always looking for things against injured enemies, like I said, especially things like attack speed or crit hit chance, just to finish them off. So I really kind of prioritize anything around berserking, core or mastery skills, crit strike chance, attack speed, kind of the obvious ones. There's nothing that's too surprising about those things. Now the Barbarian, will jump over to expertise. The Barbarian has this weapon expertise you can start after level 15, and that's kind of the unique trait. And it has these 7 different weapon expertises, and then you can put on one as a technique, which kind of doubles its bonus. So there's a few ones to quickly talk about here. The one-handed axe is increased critical strike chance against injured enemies. As I just said, I love this one. It's one I use a lot because it allows me to finish people off quickly. The mace one is also really good because you're getting that flat damage bonus against stunned enemies, which I've talked about a lot. So you're going to have enemies stunned, you might as well flat damage them. Right now, for the technique, I have on the critical strike chance against injured enemies, but I do swap between these two. That said, I haven't gotten my sword expertise to level 10 yet. However, I'm already eyeing up the rank 10, which if you look at the bottom of the box here, it says killing a crowd-controlled enemy grants 15% increased attack speed for 3 seconds. Double this if you're using 2 swords. So you could even double that again if you're using it as your technique, which means that every time you kill someone who you have ground stomped, stunned, etc., you're going to get a massive, massive boost in attack speed. So that's going to be a very, very good one to use as well. As you're using a dual wield build, I really like these bonuses here. It just helps with the build on these one-handed. So those are the ones I typically use. Last but not least, we'll quickly look at Paragon. Paragon is something that, I'm not super far in. Like I said, this is kind of the beginning of World Tier 3. Not the beginning, but I mean mid-level 50s. And as you can see here, I'm kind of working my way through the first board. I'm nearly to the top to get to the second board. But I kind of went down the right path because there's more strength there, and I like the physical damage boost here. So a lot of these that give you life and physical damage are going to be key because you're not using thorns on this build, you're not using bleeding on this build. The damage you're doing is straight physical. So you're getting these flat damage boosts, which come in handy, as you can see here as well. And I need to meet the requirements there. But for the glyph, you have a few options. This is the one I'm currently using for what should be obvious reasons, which is another flat damage boost for one-handed weapons. And because we're using the dual wield build here, this one really fits with what we're doing. It also happens to grant you 25% bonus to the magic nodes within range. So these nodes here get bonuses, these blue nodes. So you just get, slightly more out of them. And as I expand into these others, they'll get that bonus as well. There are a couple other glyphs, though, that you can use, around strength that give you specific things. For every strength in there, you get a berserking one, for instance, like Ire here. For every 5 strength, you deal 1.3% increased damage while berserking. You also take less damage from elite, so that can be really handy. So I'm still playing around with this, but again, if you think about how it coincides with your build, prioritize one-handed weapons, prioritize physical damage, prioritize things like attack speed, and if you can get crit chance or anything like that, those are huge. That's about it. It shouldn't really be too complicated in that vein, but I look forward to kind of messing around with this more and, attaching the next board and filling it out. So pretty cool system they've created here. But I think that'll about do it. Been talking for a little while now. I think I covered everything kind of in detail. As always, I'm always around. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know if you have any questions I can answer. You can find me on Twitter We have a seasoned gaming Discord that you are welcome to join. We have a Diablo channel on there that has me and a bunch of Diablo veterans helping new players and stuff. It's a great place to be, really nice people, happy to answer questions and help out there. And of course, just thank you in general for tuning in to Season Gaming. We just hit 20,000 subscribers the day I'm recording this. It's a big accomplishment for us, and love the feedback and the positivity around here. So thank you for that. I hope this helped you if you're playing Barb, and you know, down the road here as I start to experiment with the other classes, we'll see. Come back next, maybe have a sorcerer next time. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and head out. Hope you're enjoying Diablo 4. Hope this helped you. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Peace.